Hello and good morning. Welcome to another episode of the Vibrant Health Show. Maybe it's not morning when you're watching this, if you're watching the replay, but I'm going to open up my feed so I can answer questions as we go. Today, we're going to be talking all about Hashimoto's, which is such an interesting topic. As you will see as we go on today, there's lots of things that I feel like have never been explained about Hashimoto's, and so many people are getting diagnosed with it recently and still don't quite understand exactly what that means or what you do about it if you have been diagnosed with it. So as you jump on, I want to know, number one, do you even know what Hashimoto's is? I'm going to explain that. Number two, have you ever been checked for it? Have you been tested for it? And three, do you actually have it? So I kind of know who we're talking to and what's going on with everybody. But the main differentiation it's important to make between Hashimoto's and your traditional hypothyroid, that's the first thing we're going to talk about. So a lot of people, most women, in fact, it's a crazy amount of women now who have been diagnosed with hypothyroid. But what most of those women don't understand is that the number one cause of hypothyroid is actually the autoimmune condition called Hashimoto's. So the very first thing I want you to be aware of is if you have been diagnosed with hypothyroid or you're on a thyroid medication, make sure that you ask, if they haven't already, to be tested for Hashimoto's. It actually blows my mind how many women have been told they have hypothyroid or are on a medication, yet they've never checked them to see if it's the autoimmune piece, which for 80% of those women, it is, and it makes a very big difference. What you're going to learn today is there is a completely different approach when it's Hashimoto's versus when it's just hypothyroid. Even if your doctor has told you, oh, we treat them the same way. That's not true. That's why so many women don't feel like they get results or don't feel like they recover from Hashimoto's, because it cannot be managed the same way as your traditional hypothyroid. That is something that is just insane to me that's still happening. So today I'm going to teach you, what do you do if you have it? What do you look for? And where do you go from here? So let me break it down a little bit better. So hypothyroid, right, is your traditional TSH is elevated, your thyroid hormone is low. You go to the doctor, they run your blood work and they say, yeah, you have hypothyroid. Traditional hypothyroid, just regular hypothyroid, just your TSH and your thyroid numbers will be off. The difference between hypothyroid and Hashimoto's is if you also have elevated thyroid antibodies. So the first thing to do to check to see if you have Hashimoto's, which is the autoimmune thyroid, is to ask to have your antibodies tested. The two most common ones they test is called TPO, thyroid peroxidase antibodies, and your anti-thyroglobulin antibodies. So number one, if you are brand new to the thyroid stuff, you say, I want my antibodies checked, right? Don't let them push back. Don't let them say no. This is your health, your body. You can demand answers. You want your antibodies tested. If you've never had that done, that is step one. Now, there are other ways to diagnose Hashimoto's. You can do it through ultrasound. You can do it through biopsy. Those are typically more extreme. Start with the antibody blood work, right? See if it's there or not. Now, let's say this does happen. So you've had hypothyroid, you asked to be checked for the antibodies and they're positive. When you go back to your traditional doctor, and not all of them, but I work with a lot of women, and most of the time, this is the comment that I hear their doctor say is, oh yeah, your antibodies were elevated. You do have Hashimoto's, but it doesn't change the way we're going to treat this. The treatment for Hashimoto's is still a thyroid medication for life, right? Tell me in the comments if you've heard that. So you did get tested for it, you know you have it, but your doctor says, oh, but it doesn't change anything. We treat it exactly the same as hypothyroid. That, my friends, is what's wrong with this whole situation. Hashimoto's is not a thyroid problem, right? That might sound weird to say, but Hashimoto's is an autoimmune condition, which means it's an immune system problem that tends to affect the thyroid. It is not the thyroid itself that was the problem in the first place. So just managing your thyroid does nothing for the autoimmune piece. So that has to be treated differently. So if you've been told that, hey, everyone jumping on, I see lots of names popping up. I'll try to get to as many questions as I can. If not, I'll come back. Or if you're watching the replay, I'll come back to those as well. But main thing we're going to start with that you need to understand is Hashimoto's isn't a thyroid problem. It is an immune system problem. Now, here is my take on autoimmune issues. Tell me in the comments, fill in the blanks as I say this statement. You've probably heard it before. An autoimmune disease is your body attacking, fill in the blank. How would you normally finish that sentence, right? You've probably heard it from doctors or even things that you've read, is that an autoimmune condition is the body attacking itself, right? That's what we're taught. Unfortunately, because that is the thinking, we think, oh crap, it's just bad luck, or it's my genetics, or my body's just attacking itself for no reason. And what I need to do is take medications to turn off that response. And that's my only answer, right? Autoimmune disease can feel very overwhelming. There's not a lot of great answers out there. Traditionally, I will share with you holistically, there's lots of wonderful answers. But that's what we've been taught, right? So that's what we think. Oh crap, my body's attacking my thyroid. It's doing it for no reason. So I don't know what to do to fix it. That statement is so far from the truth. The way I would classify an autoimmune condition, and this is any autoimmune condition, but today we're talking about Hashimoto's, is it is your body attacking something, okay? Replace itself with something. If your body is elevating antibodies, like for Hashimoto's, if your body is elevating antibodies for rheumatoid arthritis, if it has antibodies for lupus, for whatever, it doesn't matter what the name of the condition is. If your body is elevating antibodies, it's because it's attacking something. With any autoimmune condition, the next step is to find out what that something is. Okay, that's what you do for Hashimoto's. It's not just the thyroid medication, because in fact, there's actually a lot of women who have antibodies and have been diagnosed with Hashimoto's, yet their thyroid levels are normal, right? Maybe that's you. You're like, my TSH is normal, my thyroid numbers are normal, but I have elevated antibodies. So my doctor says, oh, we don't have to do anything about this until it starts to affect the thyroid, right? But why wait? Why wait till a disease gets worse until it's actually caused damage to your thyroid to do something about it? Really taking care of the immune system piece is the most important piece of the puzzle. Now, let me explain to you why Hashimoto's tends to affect thyroid function, because over time it can. Typically, when it first starts, it's the immune system that has a reaction first, which then starts to affect thyroid function. Because those antibodies being elevated over time, I want you to think anytime antibodies are elevated, it's a war going on, right? We have a battle zone going on in that tissue, which causes inflammation, which can cause damage to that tissue. So specifically with Hashimoto's, the longer you let it go, the longer you let whatever it is that your body is attacking stay in that tissue, that war over time is going to damage the gland, the organ, the joint, wherever your reaction is, right? Depending on what type of an autoimmune issue it is. So with Hashimoto's, what happens is when you have too many antibodies and too much inflammation in the thyroid, and it damages the actual tissue of the thyroid, you can start leaking thyroid hormone, so you're not keeping as much in the thyroid. You can start having some downregulation in thyroid function. So it's the physical damage from the Hashimoto's that causes the thyroid to be less functional. This isn't just your typical, my thyroid can't make the hormone. It's in a war. So again, just thyroid medication doesn't fix the root cause of what's going on. So today, what I want to do for you guys, I want to make this really practical. I'm going to show you 2 different case studies of women that I work with and how we figured out. Both of them came to me for Hashimoto's, but both of them had completely different root causes. Both of them had different things their body were trying to attack. But between these 2 cases, it hits almost all of the root causes that I start looking for when it comes to Hashimoto's. Because remember, once you know you have it, step 1 is ask to be tested, rule it in or rule it out. If it's not there, awesome. If you have the antibodies, we've got to figure out why. So once you know you have Hashimoto's, your next step is, okay, why is my body doing this? What is my body fighting that is causing my antibodies to be elevated? And that's what I'm going to share with you guys today. So lots of things. I'll come back to those questions, guys, in just a couple minutes. But let's get started because I have lots of things to show you. So I'm going to start with one of these cases. I started working with this lady in 2021. Now, here's the thing with autoimmune and Hashimoto's. First of all, don't let anyone tell you it's not possible to have your antibodies come back down, because I'm going to show you today that's very possible. But not everyone will have the exact same amount of change. Some people will go from very high antibodies to low grade antibodies. Some people can go all the way into remission. I see that all the time as well. But it is going to look a little bit different for everybody. But the point is, it is absolutely possible. Just because you have an autoimmune disease does not mean you're stuck there forever, right? We turn off the things that triggered it and the body can heal, but it does take a process, right? So don't expect your antibodies to go down in 30 days. Don't expect the autoimmune disease to reverse in 90 days. Sometimes this is going to take some time. For example, this woman, we've been working together since the end of 2021. So we're going just over a year to get to where her body was able to release those antibodies and come back to normal. So I don't want you to expect this to be a super simple process, but it's doable, right? Like that's the thing I want you to leave with today. If you have Hashimoto's and you feel like crap and all you're doing is taking thyroid medication and you're not getting any better and you're gaining weight and you're losing hair and you still feel terrible, there are things that you can do. You've got to figure out what your body's attacking. So let's get started. I'm going to pull up some screen shares. I'll make these as big as possible so that you can see the numbers, but I will also talk you through all of them. So if you can't see them, no big deal. I want to start with the number one cause of Hashimoto's. Actually, let's show you the antibodies first. Let me pull up just one more thing. Give me a second while I find exactly the one I want to start with. Okay, let's start with this one. So talking about thyroid antibodies, let me make this really big. Here are the things that we check for. And I'm actually going to show you on this lady's labs, the first thing I checked for that made me kind of have an aha moment. If you can see that. So down here under thyroid antibodies, again, if you've never had them checked, this is where you want to start. The two typical ones for Hashimoto's are TPO, thyroid peroxidase, and thyroglobulin antibodies. You would want to check both of those, definitely. And in the middle of 2021, she had antibodies elevated to about 64 for her TPO. That was previous labs before we started working together. When she came to me, I ran another thyroid panel and I added some other things in there that I typically look for when it comes to Hashimoto's. One of them being the word above, which is called homocysteine. Her homocysteine, and you can't necessarily see the ranges on this picture, but really, I don't want homocysteine over 10. Homocysteine is when there is toxicity building up in the blood, but it also shows an inability for the body to detox itself, to methylate different vitamins. If you guys have ever heard of methylation or a genetic condition called MTHFR, this gives me a lot of good insight about how well a body is able to heal itself. And when homocysteine is high, the body is not properly detoxing and it's allowing a lot of inflammation and a lot of immune system issues to be going on underneath. So for this lady, as soon as I thought, okay, we have elevated antibodies, we have this elevated homocysteine, which means her immune system and her toxic load is mad. Potentially there's a genetic issue. That's what we're going to talk about next. And we've got to figure out what's causing that much inflammation inside of her bloodstream. So the first thing I want to share with you guys is about MTHFR and homocysteine. So MTHFR is a genetic SNP. It's actually very common. I have it. My daughter has it. A lot of people get very up in their head about, if I have this, I'm going to have all these other issues. Again, as long as you know you have it and you can properly support it, it doesn't mean you have to be doomed for your health forever. However, someone who has an MTHFR genetic weakness, I like to say weakness, it's not a problem, we can support it. But if you do have that weakness, you are more prone to autoimmune issues like Hashimoto's, RA, even fibromyalgia, those types of things, because the research shows that doesn't allow your body to detox itself, or I'll say heal itself, at 100%. Most people with those types of issues, your detox pathways are running at about 60 or 70%. of what the ideal normal would be. So when I'm thinking root causes, I'm thinking, okay, maybe there's some weakness that this body wasn't able to keep up and heal at the pace we'd want to. So checking homocysteine, when that's elevated, I start thinking, okay, we have slower detox pathways. We have more inflammation. We've got to take that into consideration, but also find what things are making that inflammation get higher. So I would really encourage you, if you've never had your homocysteine checked, I check it on every woman regardless, because it's a great snapshot into what's going on with the body, but it will also give you a good indication of how well your body is able to clean and just help heal and detox itself. So checking homocysteine is standard on the labs that I pull, and hers was more than double, almost triple where we wanted that to be. So that was one of the first things we started working on. Let's calm down the inflammation. Let's support the function of the immune system. But then I wanted to see, we know that homocysteine affects certain pathways that are linked to all kinds of different issues, including Hashimoto's. So the very next thing we checked was looking at her Dutch test for her methylation pathways and what her hormones look like. So let me show you, because seeing that homocysteine, we're thinking, oh shoot, we have pathways that aren't working well. We take her Dutch test, and sure enough, those same methylation pathways, that's the word we used when we were talking about homocysteine, those same pathways are exactly what help you filter and bind your estrogen, use it appropriately, and protect you from estrogen dominance, which estrogen dominance is a trigger for Hashimoto's, because estrogen can be inflammatory. It can turn on an immune system response. Oftentimes, I will see an estrogen dominance paired with somebody who has Hashimoto's. And for this lady, that's exactly what we found. Her estrogens were crazy high, creating more inflammation. Something you might not know about estrogen is estrogen actually uses the same binding proteins as your thyroid hormone, which means those estrogens compete with your thyroid, and they can get into the same tissues that your thyroid hormone is supposed to be. But then your body starts thinking, well, wait a minute, why is there so much estrogen in here? This is supposed to be thyroid hormone. And it starts to attack it, right? Remember, the question is, what is my body attacking? Too much estrogen dominance could be one of the things that your body is responding to, creating the flare in your antibodies, right? Start putting the pieces together, figure out why your body is doing this. So for this lady, as soon as I saw that homocysteine elevated, I was pretty sure we were going to see some crazy estrogen stuff, pulled her Dutch test, and sure enough, there it was right there. So we started working on these pathways, getting her to be able to detox better, methylate better, really supporting those pathways. This is also the estrogen pathway that I look at for people who have things like endometriosis or fibroid formation, even nodules in your thyroid, because these specific pathways, if they're not detoxified, they can create abnormal cell growth. And that can show up many different places in the body. But these pathways, these types of detox pathways, influence a lot of how your immune system and your detox system is working, right? So let's figure out how well your body is working, or if there are weaknesses, what can we correct to take that pressure off of your body? So I know that was a lot. So let's recap those two pieces. First of all, we knew she had Hashimoto's. As soon as we saw the homocysteine, we knew there was things gunking up her detox pathways. Clearly, her body wasn't cleaning itself out the way it was supposed to. And because of that specific marker, estrogen was the most likely cause. And sure enough, she had tons of estrogen dominance. So working through releasing that. The other thing we started looking at is on her labs, I noticed a couple of white blood cell markers were low. We had really low vitamin D. So immediately I start thinking, well, something's irritating her immune system, right? If you have low markers of vitamin D consistently, even when you supplement, it barely goes up. If your white blood cells are weak, if you constantly have liver enzymes elevated, can't figure out why, those are all signs that there's probably some type of chronic infection or overgrowth. So the very next thing I checked, because the research now is saying that the number one, the top cause of Hashimoto's is a chronic Epstein-Barr viral infection. The number one cause. So when I talk about the sequence for Hashimoto's, number one is figure out you have it. Number two is if you have hypothyroid, see if it's Hashimoto's. If it's Hashimoto's, check Epstein-Barr, because we know that those three things are highly linked together. So we pulled her Epstein-Barr values, and let me show these to you. I have an entire Vibrant Health show from a couple weeks back about Epstein-Barr. So today is going to be a little bit quicker. So if you don't catch everything on this one, let me pull up the other one, sorry. If you don't catch everything about Epstein-Barr on this one, I highly recommend you go back and watch the entire Epstein-Barr one. It is fascinating. But here's the Epstein-Barr values. So Epstein-Barr is the virus that causes mono, but it gets trapped in the body. And one of the reasons why Hashimoto's is one of the most common autoimmune diseases is because the thyroid has the most blood flow of any gland in your body, which means things that are in your bloodstream tend to go to the thyroid very quickly. Okay. That's why Hashimoto's is so, all over the place right now, because of that blood flow. It circulates and gets right into that thyroid, like Epstein-Barr virus. So we pull her Epstein-Barr markers, and she had 3 of the 4 Epstein-Barr markers positive, which means she was in an acute reactivation. She was currently dealing with this Epstein-Barr that was getting inside her thyroid, creating a war. So let me recap this and tell me in the comments if this makes sense. Do you think it makes more sense that your body just woke up one day and decided, hey, I'm just going to go to war with the thyroid, like we're beefing, we're just going to war today because I just woke up in a bad mood? Or would it make more sense that if you have this virus that was in your bloodstream that got into your thyroid, and your body says, oh, a virus in my thyroid is probably not a good thing, we should go attack this virus. We're going to send off some antibodies. We're going to make an immune system response. We're going to attack the virus to try and get it out of the thyroid. Wouldn't that make more sense to you, that there was something actually in there that your body was trying to fight off? So instead of just taking a medication to make your numbers look better, well, that virus stays in your thyroid, or that estrogen stays in your thyroid, or that inflammation stays in your thyroid and destroys it. Wouldn't you rather go after what's actually in there, what's causing the problem? And then if you do still need some medication to keep your thyroid numbers balanced, great. But at least you're going to reduce the risk of it getting worse. And the research shows that typically if you have one autoimmune condition like Epstein-Barr or like Hashimoto's, typically over your lifetime, you'll end up with a second or a third. And the reason is because it was never your thyroid's fault. Something's triggering your immune system. And if you don't fix the trigger, it's going to turn into subsequent autoimmune issues. So we never just want to shut down the number. We don't want to just take something to hide the problem. We've got to correct the underlying cause, or else it's going to rear its head somewhere else, which is why things like lupus, MS, Hashimoto's, they're all linked. And a lot of people have more than one at the same time because of whatever's triggering it in the first place. So biggest lesson today is you've got to find your trigger. For this lady, it was the estrogen dominance. It was having the Epstein-Barr virus and her body not being able to fight that off appropriately. We worked on all of those numbers. I'm going to show you her post-lab that we just got in February. And after working on those and a few other things, we checked for other inflammatory markers. We checked her gut. There were several things that we worked on in order to get the results we were looking for. But her follow-up labs, I'm gonna have to go back and get that. Her antibodies were back to normal. And I'll pull that back up in a second. I just don't want to take too much time looking for that one. Back to normal in over a year, right? Not 30 days, not 90 days, but people will tell you that's not possible. They'll tell you once you have it, it's there forever. And that's just not true. You have to know the right things to do to be able to get them back to normal. So let me find this one real quick. Okay. Here's the one with the antibodies back to normal. I feel like it's encouraging for you to be able to see this. Let me screen share it with you. So remember, we started well over in the 60s, and then her thyroid antibodies this last time back under 34, thyroglobulin good, and her homocysteine, which was a 26 on her first labs, is down safely to a 5. So this tells me her body's detoxing better. There's not a ton of inflammation in the bloodstream, a bunch of junk's not getting stuck in the thyroid, and now her antibodies were able to come back to normal. Huge. I need that to be an encouraging statement for you, because a lot of people get diagnosed with these issues and feel like, oh man, like I'm going to be dealing with this forever. And if you don't find the cause, that's true. But if you find the cause, it doesn't have to be true. You can at least protect from it not getting worse, not becoming other autoimmune issues, and get your energy and your life and your body back. It's totally doable, but you've got to find what the body is attacking. So let me show you one more example of a lady who came to me, same thing, Hashimoto's, similar symptoms, but different root causes. Hers ended up being mainly immune system issues. So she had 3 different overgrowths and infections that were getting caught in the thyroid that were creating the antibody flare in her thyroid. She had 3 different strep bacteria that gets caught directly in that thyroid. Strep bacteria and Epstein-Barr are 2 of the most common things I see that really flare up that antibody response inside the thyroid. So this was looking at a gut test. We wanted to see what pathogens, overgrowth, what was going on in the gut that could be contributing to her antibody flare. We found 3 strep bacteria that we got to work on. She also had candida, yeast, fungus, candida, any type, including mold is a yeast, is a fungus. Any type of yeast or fungus has a high affinity for the thyroid. It loves that warm, squishy tissue. It gets stuck in there and then it starts to grow. So then your body wants to attack it. So it starts making antibodies. So then you get diagnosed with Hashimoto's. Are you guys following me on this trend, right? Something gets stuck in there. Bottom line, something's in your thyroid. So for this lady, she had the strep bacteria. She also had the candida, and she was also the lucky winner of a parasite. So this is also found on the stool sample. She had a pretty large parasite overgrowth, and those parasites love that warm, squishy tissue. So they get stuck in places like the thyroid, the adrenal glands. So for her, our main work was we need to kill these things off. We need to get rid of the bacteria. We need to get rid of the candida, and we need these parasites to go so that the body can calm down and be able to regulate itself, right? So always looking for what's causing those issues. Because I believe fully with every ounce of my being, the body knows how to heal, right? The premise of natural healing is that the body needs no help to heal. It just needs no interference. If we can remove whatever is blocking the body from healing, it knows what to do, right? It can heal, it can balance, you can get back to homeostasis, but it requires us finding out what's blocking it and removing each of those pieces in order to allow your body to heal. And when it comes to Hashimoto's, the most common thing is something's stuck in that thyroid. If you have Hashimoto's, do you know what your answer is? So if you and I were to get on a call today and you say, oh yeah, I want help with my Hashimoto's. Okay, great. Do you know what your trigger is for your Hashimoto's? Could you answer that question? If you can't answer that question, we got some work to do. And it starts with getting proper testing. The 3 tests, and I'll drop links to all these below. I'll make them really easy to find. But if you haven't done these, the 3 things you want to work with, and you can start doing all of them. You can start with 1, like wherever you're comfortable. But number 1, you check for Epstein-Barr because it's the number 1 known cause of Hashimoto's. You need to know if that's there or not. Number 2, a stool sample, because if there's bacterial overgrowth, infections, yeast, parasites, those are going to be a root cause for your Hashimoto's. And number 3 is a hormone and adrenal mapping, because I'm well known for my women's health trifecta, right? That's what I teach all over the world. The fact that your thyroid, your hormones, and your adrenals make up the trifecta for a woman of how you're going to feel good and have vibrant health, but they work together. So if you know you have a thyroid issue, but you've never checked your adrenals and your hormones, you're missing 2 of the top 3 pieces you need to really balance your endocrine system. So the answer for Hashimoto's is find out what's triggering it. Get the right testing so you know your answer, and then start knocking them down one by one. The last thing I'm going to leave you with, and this is something I'm going to be talking a lot more about over the next couple of weeks in the Vibrant Health shows, is making sure you're also doing things the right order at the right time, and that you're not rushing it, which I know for a lot of people is very hard, right? We find all of these things. Let's say we did all those labs on you. We found infections, we found hormone imbalance, we found adrenal issues, and we found Hashimoto's. You know what we can't do? I can't give you 15 herbs and medications and supplements to try and fix all of those things at once. Your body is already too overwhelmed. Especially with autoimmune issues, it becomes really important to slow down and start knocking these things off one by one so that your body can assimilate the information. It can understand what it's supposed to be doing and eventually can learn to do it on its own again. So especially if you're working with another holistic doctor, I hear this all the time, and they're like, yeah, they started me on this big gut cleanse. I'm on 15 different supplements. I'm gonna take a sip of water. I'll tell you why in a second that my throat is scratchy. But so I'm on 15 different supplements. I'm taking a bunch of stuff all the time. I'm doing this big cleanse. They have me on this elimination diet. I'm doing all of these things. I'm exhausted. I can't keep up with it. Girl, if you have Hashimoto's and infections and hormone imbalance, that is way too much for you to be doing all at the same time. Piece by piece, one thing at a time. You don't need overwhelm. You don't need more stuff to do. You need strategy and you need a plan. And when it comes to Hashimoto's, the very first thing you need to do, find out the triggers and then just start working through them one by one. Don't get overwhelmed. Don't try to do everything at the same time. Make sure you're going in the right order at the right pace for your body. So this is a healing experience, not another stressor or trauma to your body. Try to do too many things. Your body will freak out. It can't handle that many things. Slow it down step by step. Not next week, but the week after, my entire live is going to be about that. What order do you go in? What step comes first? What should you address first when you have health and healing issues? And really laying it out so that you become abundantly clear about what needs to be worked on first and how you should go through those phases that honors the body and allows healing and doesn't just become another stressor, which unfortunately I see so often is people are just stressing their bodies out way too much. So have the right strategy, have the right plan, but it all starts with the right testing. So if you have a thyroid issue or Hashimoto's and you've not done any of the tests that I showed you guys today, that's your next step. I'm going to drop links to where you can get those tests. If you purchase any of those tests, it also includes your test review appointment with one of my doctors. So someone will walk you through the results. They'll explain what they found. They'll be able to help you make a plan. But testing is the number one thing you need to do for Hashimoto's. I apologize for my scratchy throat. My husband and I are taking our scuba diving certification. And if you know me at all, you know we live very holistically. We don't use chemicals in our house. We don't use everything is as natural as it comes. But we've been in this chlorinated pool for the last 2 weeks, a couple nights a week, doing the scuba certification. And it is messing with me because we really stay away from that stuff as best as we can. So being exposed to that for several days, my body is actively trying to get rid of it because it's freaking out. But that's why I sound kind of funny today. But it's been fun. It's been a very interesting experience. I need to detox from all this chlorine this weekend and get it out of my cells and get it out of my body. But I know there's lots of questions. This is a pretty detailed teaching topic, so I don't want to take too much of your time. But I'm going to come back and I'm going to answer any of those questions and get with you. But I just encourage you, no matter what you're struggling with, any health issues at all, there's always answers, but it's also a continual journey. I've been on my own healing journey for 10 years, and there's little things like being exposed to chlorine or having a new infection or all these things with COVID. There's constantly things I have to go back to and reset. Postpartum, after both of my pregnancies, I've always had to reset and do things differently. Don't get frustrated. Don't give up. Another answer, another thing that you find, one more step in the right direction. Those little steps add up to huge changes, but your body will be different in every season. You will need different things in every season, and that's okay. Don't get frustrated. Find the next step. Keep moving in the right direction. That is truly the only way to stay well, get well, be well. Continual work on your physical body. So starting with testing, make sure you're doing it slow and steady. Don't get overwhelmed and frustrated. No matter what you do, don't give up because there's always more answers and there's always new things you can work on. And I'm always here for questions. You're welcome to private message me, ask questions, send emails. I love answering your guys' questions. So thank you for being with me. I'll come back and answer your guys' questions in the comments. And then I'll see you next week for another Vibrant Health Show.